Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, a World Alternative Media here, and of course we're joined by author and economic analyst here at WAM, John Sneisen, and we have some effed up news, and it's something that we have been predicting for a long time. I swear that we can read minds, but I think it's just common sense after reading history. As CityAm reports, European bureaucrats draw a plan to drag all EU 27 nations into the single currency after Brexit, because there's a bunch of crybabies that love globalism so much, and they're like, you know what, in spite of all this, we're going to push for a global currency or a globalist currency. And it's something that we've been talking about a lot, but this comes from leaks, and that's a key part of this, is that these are leaked documents. And John, can you go into what this all is and what it means?
Well, as the Eurozone is kind of teetering on the edge of collapse, what they want to do now is they want to implement in the non-Euro user countries, which is the currency, they want them to implement the Euro. And what that will create is a full-fledged Euro zone. And then now they could implement the one centralized bank for everybody. Because the problem is you had the pound, sterling, right? That now are, because of Brexit, they're doing this. They're actually wanting to get everybody like, okay, since the Brexit was a massive blow and could collapse the European Union, now they want everybody to just huddle together and be one big collective and sing kumbaya when the euro is burning.
Well, that's been the plan all along. As we went into last year, actually, the leaked Bilderberg documents went into this extensively, going back to the 1980s, actually going back to the 70s, really, before they were calling it the European Union and all that. This has been going on for a long time. And, what's interesting is that this could be much worse than just fiat, as we've also gone into. It's more about a potential cashless society. As we've talked about in the past, they've been drafting up these plans through the special drawing rights to ensure a global cashless society. And what that would basically mean, as I usually go into this spiel, is that if your money's in the bank, it's not yours, it's the bank's. And if your money's always going through the bank, through digital transactions, and you can't hold it in your hand, it's always the bank's, and you're enslaved to the banks. This is servitude, this is enslavement, and this is further debt enslavement, really, when they're trying to push us down that bottomless pit of debt and force us to ask for a ladder up from the banking system and the governments. And that, in essence, is the slavery that I'm talking about. And when they are able to push people into debt slavery, there's no saying how far people will go to fall on their knees and beg for the state and the banking system to help them out. And this is a huge problem. And it just infuriates me, because we were talking about this last year, actually, as Brexit was happening, that they're trying to push this global currency system, and people are saying, you're just crazy, you're wearing a tinfoil hat, the usual talking points that are absolute nonsense, and by the way, not an argument. And it just continues to vindicate us, and it's really unfortunate. I would be so happy to be wrong about all this insanity, but unfortunately we're being vindicated again and again and again, and we have to start speaking out louder about this, because it's being kind of swept under the rug, swept under the carpet. And now we have leaked documents that prove that they are indeed, a bunch of these bureaucrats are indeed trying to push for this global currency, and that is what the New World Order is. People on TV might talk about the New World Order as it's some crazy Illuminati thing. No, the New World Order has a set agenda that's well documented, that goes back many years, and that is a global order based on the monetary system, the military-industrial complex, and these shadow government figures, the CFR, Trilateral Commission, etc., etc. Of course, the Trilateral Commission, one of its founding members, just died last week, Zbigniew Brzezinski, and this has been being pushed to the forefront for so long, and people just ignore it as conspiracy theory. But it's so well documented, and it's so infuriating watching people ignore just obvious, simple facts that can be documented from all angles going back more than a century. This agenda continues to play out. John, what else does it say?
Well, it's a lot easier to actually implement something when everybody's cooperating, right? Instead of having several fragmented cashless societies, you just want to centralize into a couple of big, massive currencies, right, for
absolutely.
every continent, and that has been proved throughout history and through documents that will and that want to have those different continents, because they know that it's very hard for everybody to be just one world government. They could have just 4 or 5 sub-regions, which would be, Asia, Eurasia they talked about. They talked about the North American. They talked about Africa and so on. That's what they want, and it's so much easier for them to centrally plan something, they believe, that when everything is under that one umbrella.
Yeah, I guess you could call it provinces of the world order as they work together, and it's an incremental push towards an actual full conglomeratization. And what is really crazy is that, people often think a one world order is, kumbaya, breaking bread with each other. That's the same thing that they were saying for a long time about the EU. And basically, we've just continued to see massive all-out war, monetary destruction, market manipulation under this guise. And it's really a way to say, look, you can have peace, quote-unquote peace, even though there is none, but people won't pay attention to that. They're too busy watching the news. Meanwhile, we're going to create a bigger control complex, a collectivist world order. You have no say. You are enforced and coerced by the state, the all-knowing, all-powerful state. And let's replace God with state, and let's replace all religion with just a religion of statism. And it continues to grow at a world level, into a world order, and people just sit back and think, well, you know what? What else is on TV? Is there a new season of Dancing with the Stars? Let's watch Big Brother, where we laugh about some people living in a house and while they're being watched by cameras, while we are actually being watched by cameras from our computers and our cell phones, and every time we walk down the street with facial recognition. When are people going to wake up to this obvious guise? This is a thin veil, and it's totalitarian, it's authoritarian, it is destructive, and we are the ones that feel the most pain in the long run as we are shoved into this pit of debt, servitude, and absolute enslavement. How long until we are goose-stepping into the next committee meeting where people tell us, well, we're going to steal more of your tax money? How long until people figure out they're being extorted to pay off the debt, to pay off these massive rigged manipulations and risky investments by bankers and the government? How long until people are going to realize that they are being used as a pawn in order to slowly erode at any remaining civil liberties that people should be holding dear? Instead, we're like sheep driven off a cliff, and we don't say a single word until it's too late, and we're at the bottom of that cliff in pieces. How long will it take until people wake up and pay attention to what we've been vindicated on for so freaking long? It amazes me that we continue to deal with not just the socialist, collectivists, the conservative collectivists, the communist collectivists, the fascist collectivists, all on this circular spectrum of destruction and servitude, while the real problems are left to the distance. The real problems are swept under the rug. No one pays attention to the real problems we do face as supposed free, sovereign, voluntary human beings. What we're born as, but what's quickly taken away. The government doesn't give you freedom. Freedom is intrinsic within you from the time you're born, and it's only able to be taken away, but it can't be given to you. And when people continue to vote in these new powers for change and, a new direction forward, etc., progress, they continue to perpetuate the same problems of the Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution. And as long as we stay on this long-ass road, constantly looking for someone to rule us, the more that we are going to constantly be pushed as a pawn into the front lines to be sacrificed for the king and the queen. John, I'm being worked up. Go ahead, take my place. What else is going to be
well, I'm just going to go back to the article quickly, just so you can actually see who is meeting and where this came out of, because we're talking about this article now. It came out, the minutes of a meeting between the EU Commission responsible for the policy on the euro. Their name was Valdis, Dombrovskis, and Pierre Moscovici. Show how the pair the Pierre plan to introduce all EU member states into the Eurozone by 2025. And it was actually the German newspaper Frankfurter Allgemein that reported on this story. The remaining states that are supposed to be pushed into the Eurozone, I don't know everyone. I know there's 28 of them, and 9 of them are not using the currency. I know, of course, Denmark, Sweden, Croatia, Poland are not using it. They got the zloty, they got the krona, the kroner, and the krona. Well, there's 4 of them that are kroner. What's interesting, though, and what I found out by looking into this, is that Denmark, through the treaty agreements, could actually force to join that Euro corporation. But the problem is, Denmark is one of the most collectivist countries in the world. So I don't know, and see how they would want to keep any freedom, as they have massive amounts of these communist communes everywhere. And they don't like to have freedom. They have the highest taxes in the world. So how are we going to see Denmark stand up, the individual in Denmark stand up? I know a couple of individuals that will stand up and say no. They are, of course, a couple of my good friends, and they will stand up and say no to this insanity of going into a massive unit union that we're looking at. And of course, as the shift from Brexit, which is started this whole thing, they're looking at now, of course, moving the whole trading of the currency out of the London banksters' hands into probably Frankfurt or somewhere else, and it's going to cost them just about 100 billion euros in order to do that transfer. It's a massive amount of money that's going to change hands, and some bankers, I know Barclays and other Royal Bank of Scotland, other banksters over there in London, it's going to be very sad that they're going to lose some of that little pie that they had. And of course, the little bit free market, or whatever you can call it, the competition gets hotter as banks will compete. Whatever they do, they want to basically kill each other to become just one big bank. And who's going to win? You know, the whole Euro trading scheme, that would be a massive win for the banksters, of course, that gets that contract.
Well, and it's just further conglomeratization, as I said, to push for and compete for who will enslave us. And I'm sorry that I got into a bit of a rant there, kind of took away from the news story itself. But I mean, I can't help it. I'm just watching these dull-brained people that are unfortunately simple-minded because they've been taught not to look into any of this information. They've been brought up through public schooling, and they don't look into any of the facts that we face today and any of the things that victimize free individuals, so-called free individuals. And it's just so depressing and so infuriating to constantly watch these people, the vast majority of the populace, constantly be pushed into servitude to the state and the banking system without even knowing it.
Well, you actually forgot one important thing, Josh, and you actually predicted this back a couple of months ago. Now, there was an article that came out that is Germany creating a European army force. Mm-hmm. And it actually came out into the open into a big article. I believe it was The Guardian or somebody.
I think that was back in October.
Yeah, there was several that actually are reporting on it now, just recently. And of course, one big army goes hand in hand with one big fiat currency.
Oh, absolutely. And they've been competing and working towards leading this army and, of course, to aggress against none other than Russia. Isn't that just grand?
Hey, they clashed before. You know, you had the communists and the fascists. Now we have the fascists and... I don't know what you can call. You can call them state capital. I don't know.
Who?
Collectivist versus collectivist. Russia versus Germany again.
Yeah, I don't think there's any good side to this in the long run. I can't stand Germany, and I'd much prefer Russia over Germany. But
actually, yeah.
I mean, in the end, this is just going to come down to further lives lost and further people in debt and in poverty and starving. There's going to be more starvation.
Are you a Russian agent since you like Russia, Josh?
Well, let me make it clear. I don't like the Russian government. I just think that they're the adults on the block in this equation.
It's important to clarify because the fake news mass media out there will try to portray
absolutely
form a way they can. Actually,
they always do.
A lot of our friends that we repost our stuff was on the list, of course, being called the Russian Russian propaganda news outlets.
I think it's a badge of honor. They're doing something right when the establishment hates them so much that they're just going to go, Russia, Russia, Russia. You know, it's just insane. It's like these delusional people like Maxine Waters. But anyway, that's a whole other subject. But this is just continuing to grow in size and scope, and no one seems to be listening except for our awesome viewers who actually pay attention to this kind of stuff, apart from the trolls that tend to not actually watch our videos or just comment on the videos with really stupid comments. But, you know, the point is there's so many people that are just walking right into that fire and they don't care. They don't realize that they just blindly walk forward in life without paying attention to anything in front of them. And I don't know how you can possibly do that. That drives me crazy. I go insane if I don't hear the news over a few days because I don't know what's going on, because I want to be able to be prepared for whatever's in front of me. And a big part of this is self-sustainability, self-responsibility, coming down to the voluntarist angle where you have food, water, shelter, defense, and sound money. And you take one of those things away and a lot of this can come down like a domino effect. But John, thanks for going into this. We will continue to cover this story as it unfolds further, as we continue to predict these things happening, and then it happens after people call us crazy and Russian agents and who knows what. You know, shills, you must be shill for some gold company, blah, 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 blah. Whatever that means. So, yeah, absolutely. We need to continue covering this story, and we will, and we hope you continue to watch, subscribe below. But until next time, check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated, especially as we are so vastly demonetized and censored by YouTube. Also, check our Bitcoin address in the description and the comments, as well as on the screen for you to scan, if you please. And also check our link to the Red Pill Expo, which takes place in Bozeman, Montana, June 23rd to 24th, 2017, where you could see people like Robert Kiyosaki, G. Edward Griffin, Richard Gage, James Corbett, Lord Moncton, Jeff Berwick, Ty Bollinger, Mike Adams, Cynthia McKinney, John Rappaport, Patrick Wood. The list goes on and on and on. It's going to be an amazing event. We hope to see you there, but check the link below. And until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson and John Sneisen signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.